Hello and welcome to Dice Masters United. I'm Spug.
I'm Ben.
I'm James.
And I'm Peter.
Coming up in this episode,
we're rounding off our series on energy types with a focus on bolts. What typifies them, which go against type, and which is the boltiest bolt of all.
Spug will be putting our bolt knowledge to the test with a tricksy quiz. Will we be sufficiently attuned to his questions, or will they prove to be too deadly?
And we'll bring you all the latest on some upcoming online tournament action. So crack out your webcam and prepare to get involved.
All that and more in the latest episode of Dice Masters United.
Yeah, so over the past few months, we've been slowly working our way through each energy type and have endeavoured to establish the cards that most represent 3 of the 4 that we've done so far: Fist, Shield, and Mask. We invited you to vote for which you think have been the fistiest fist, the shieldiest shield, and so on. And people decided that Guy Gardner was the fistiest fist. Alfred Pennyworth, much to James's delight, came out as the shieldiest shield. And somehow Professor X was voted the maskiest mask, much to, I think, my disgust. But maybe not so much Ben's. And now it's time to round off the series and talk about maybe the most dynamic of energy types, the Bolt. So what do we think defines a typical Bolt card? What do we reckon are the sort of typical attributes that a Bolt tends to have, Ben?
I mean, there is some debate over certain aspects that we kind of talked about. But I think the one that we all sort of definitely agree on 100% is it involves some kind of direct damage.
Yeah.
And pingy and ping, 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 ping.
Yeah.
Until your opponent's dead and all their field are dead and everyone's dead. Generally, it's the main win condition and main control way of doing things and the main kind of game set. You don't really care whether you win in the attack step or the main step. You're kind of just always putting pressure on your opponent to win.
Yeah. Peter, what do you reckon about that? How do you define bolts typically?
Yeah, definitely the direct damage, but I would also say so some stuff with actions also is very common on Bolt cards.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's I mean, for people that play Magic, the Bolt also sort of represents the red mana type in Magic, because that is also the color of direct damage, but it's also the color of affinity with artifacts, which is sort of the Magic equivalent of actions.
Okay.
So there's definitely some parallels there.
Yeah, James, you were getting excited about the action die link, weren't you, between Bolt characters when you were looking at them earlier?
I was. I went through, as I think Ben did, I went through them all, and it struck me, because, you know it's pingy, and there's a bit of blanking going on, but it struck me that there's a ton that they basically do stuff with action dice. Not only are there some great Bolt action dice, but that's true of every energy type, but there are lots of characters like, well, I suppose we'll come to them later, that manipulate action dice or cancel action dice or make action dice cheaper, and there's loads of globals for making action dice cheaper, which are all bolts on Bolt characters. Also, dragons are quite bolty, not all of them, but a lot of them.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of characters with, well, maybe it's just a little group of characters with really high attack and really low defense, which also turn out to be bolts.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, the there is that thing about stats.
I always have a thing about. So I think generally with the archetypes in Dice Masters, you can kind of group the stats into the fist characters have big stats, mask characters have small stats, shield characters have big defense, low attack, and then Bolt have high attack, low defense generally.
Yeah,
and that leads to a kind of aggressive style with them for sure.
Yeah, that's definitely true. That's a good rule of thumb, I think there, Ben. So what are some great examples of a really typical Bolt kind of character based on what we've said?
Well, before we do that, can I just complain about the actiony thing.
You can complain.
Just because
to your heart's content.
Because I agree with Peter that it is very typical of the red. I think more than any kind of other energy type, this has a very strong link to magic.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm not particularly well versed in magic as a general archetype, but reds in general are their kind of mana type is mountains, and they're all about kind of coming down from the mountains and kind of laying waste to everyone with just aggressive kind of style play.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Dragons
that
are also very red.
And yeah, exactly. Dragons are from the mountains, which is why you have a bunch of dragon type cards in Dice Masters, which I think fit really well. Breath Weapon being a really good, obvious example. But I didn't know the thing about artifacts. Because I always associate kind of items like that with like blue and stuff like that, which I know is kind of the opposite to red in Magic. So it's interesting to me. I think that's why I didn't gravitate or sort of ignored the kind of action-based things. And I agree with James that there are a ton if you go actually look at them.
Yeah.
That's kind of counterintuitive in my head to what red is like, therefore what Bolt should be like. So it's interesting that kind of there is that nuance in Dice Masters. And I was reading a little bit about this today, that kind of red is also sometimes closely aligned with green, which is kind of like the trample, which is the equivalent to Overcrush in Dice Masters. So lots of the red characters have Overcrush, or trample, sorry.
Yeah.
Which isn't something you associate necessarily with Bolt characters. So there is more deviation, I think, than I was giving credit to. But I'm still not convinced that actually Bolts are the most bolty Bolts. But I suppose we can get to that at the end of the discussion. So that was my objection.
Go on, James, what were you going to say?
No. I was just saying we'll probably come to the boltiest of all later, but maybe we should get onto some examples.
Yeah,
that's the next step, isn't it?
Let's do it.
That was my tirade.
Yeah. James, kick us off. What's boltiest?
Well, I'm not going to go straight in for what's boltiest. I'm going to just give you some examples of the action dice stuff that I was talking about, and maybe the high attack ones. So my favourite Ultraman, who obviously triggers when you use a kryptonite die, which is also a bolt action die, triggers all of the available basic actions that you can use. So that's certainly working with actions, whether you consider that to be bolty or not. I do, I think. And then you've got the Scarlet Witch and the kind of similar Baron Zemo, who from Age of... Oh, I don't know which one. Where was the first Zemo from? Because later he was a mask in Age of Ultron, right?
Yeah.
And the Scarlet Witch Hex Bolts, who says, while Scarlet Witch is active, when you use an action die, you may pay 1 to add it to your prep area. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
Then you've got the cancelling ones that I mentioned, like Bleeze, Rare, and Oni, I think. And there was one more, wasn't there? Gnome Ranger, who, when fielded and stuff like that, they move action dice to the use pile, and they get rid of these the continuous dice sitting in the field, like Lantern Ring and stuff. And Riddler, who allows you to swap the costs of action dice, that that rare Riddler that you played with the bat signal, and another good bolt die, which is a satchel, the rare satchel. So that sort of thing. And then there's Forge and Elf Wizard, and there's a ton of them. And Blue Dragon in particular, I like. Blue Dragon has various incarnations, which all do stuff, trigger off action dice. The Apprentice, while active, whenever you use an action die's ability, choose an opposing character. That character can't block this turn. Which is very handy with like a more aggressive combat damage Ultraman team, or the Horrible Beholder stuff. I mean, it's win more, but still fun.
I think that might be my problem with Ultraman in particular, is that the kind of there's I think 3 kind of ways of building Ultraman that have sort of broken through into the meta. There's the one that uses Betrayal, which kind of does pings for every character your opponent has. Yeah. Which is sort of bolty, I give it that. But the other 2, especially the way James plays it with the Dwarf Wizard.
I play it everywhere. Yeah, okay. But even that Dwarf Wizard itself is another example of a bolt character, which combines with action dice.
Yeah. And it gets +2/+2 for every action dice you use.
Something like that, yeah.
So you use it basically. You use all 4 actions, and then you use those actions to clear your opponent's field somehow, and then make.
Well, you give it Overcrush.
Wizard, or you give it Overcrush.
Use an action. Yeah.
Which to me aren't particularly bolty things in my mind because they're not direct damage. And then the last way I suppose is the clear the field and use the pump one from what was it called?
The front line,
which gives all your characters +3 attack if they're unblocked, or +2 attack.
Yeah, +3, I think it is. Yeah,
+3. Yeah, so they're both very combat focused damage.
I think you're right in that. You're right in that the end result is not bolty, but they are enabled by the action dice, which are, I think.
Yeah. But then, in saying that, some of my research into the red Magic the Gathering faction today was that apparently they're the ones that are most typical with the plus X attack ability, that you get +X attack for doing whatever on their characters. So red is very focused on that. So stuff like the front line, which gives +X attack, and the Dwarf Wizard, which gets +X attack, is very red. So yeah, I don't see why it's not bolty in that sense, I suppose. So yeah, it's kind of cool that there are all these things, and that kind of, I suppose it's a bit like Masks. When we did the Masks, there was lots of sidekick type stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of a hidden thing.
Yeah. I hadn't realised at all how prevalent it was until I looked, and there was just a ton of them, and in lots of different ways as well, like triggering pings, or clearing action dice, or triggering all of the action dice, or putting them in your prep areas. Just loads of different stuff.
Mm-hmm. Were there any great examples, Peter, that you wanted to mention in terms of things that people haven't already brought up here?
Well, yeah, in terms of action dice, there's a Boom Boom, of course, all the stuff with Attune, like Yanti.
Yeah.
Dragonborn Sorcerer. Filth. It's not really my sort of thing, actually, with the exception of Ultraman.
No. Well, I mean, I think that the super rare Yanti, where her ability is triggered every time you purchase a die. I mean, that's such a. I mean, it is obviously direct damage. It's kind of
the worst. Yeah. Well, I suppose while we're on the kind of just thought of this one. I might have made it in my list earlier, but the boltiest action maybe is the rare Cosmic Cube. The bandest bolt, the most banned.
What does it read, Ben? What does it read?
Is it banned though? It was banned.
Oh, I don't know if it's because it's not banned in Golden, I suppose, is it?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, it's a 2-cost bolt, and it's from the Guardians of the Galaxy expansion. It says whenever an action die or character ability deals damage this turn, increase that damage by 2. By 2. So a 1 ping becomes a 3, and if you use multiple Cosmic Cubes on the same turn, then they stack. Mm-hmm. So you can use 2 or 3 of them in a turn, and particularly, I mean, in the day when you could use something like Professor X or, I don't know, some other crazy mimic ramp or something, you could get, 2 or 3 of them in rotation, and then that would increase the damage by 6 every time you do anything. It's madness.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it was just unbelievably strong, wasn't it? Even when you started playing with that Storm from Deadpool, which had kind of prototype Attune.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
it was ridiculous, and then they just made it cheaper with the Yanti, and you could do it when you buy other action dice. It's just like, okay, well, I'll just give up then.
Oh, I'm dead.
Yeah. So the storm that you're talking about is from Deadpool, obviously the neglected set, as we've said before. But she's a rare 3-cost bolt that says while Storm is active, when you use an action die, deal 1 damage to target opponent or target character die. So basically, you use Cosmic Cube, that immediately does 3 damage. You use a second Cosmic Cube in the same turn, that will do 5 damage. If you manage to use a third Cosmic Cube on that turn, you will do 7 damage, which already makes 15 damage.
Yeah.
It's like madness.
I enjoyed that too. That's how we first made contact, Spug, isn't it?
Oh, it is, yeah. Yeah, you picked up on that. That was how nice.
Yeah, I was just there with my X-23 team trying to do 20 in one shot and just get them pinged to death. That is my least favorite thing about bolts. I really, really dislike all the things to play against. Bolts are the worst.
Panging.
The most demoralizing.
Gobby.
Yeah. Gobby. Well, to my mind, the other example is Human Torch.
Human Torch, yeah. Which one though? Which one is your?
Also, the Firestorm kind of fits into this, or anything. There's loads of examples. There's like the Blue Beetle. There's a few others that I can't think of off the top of my head, but the Human Torch was definitely the worst one, which is when fielded, ping someone. Just because you like it.
What about Manticore?
Manticore, yeah.
Well, the AVX Human Torch, it wasn't when you field Human Torch, it's when you field something else.
Yeah.
So it was each time you field a character, Human Torch deals 1 damage to your opponent and 1 to a target character.
Yeah, and the Firestorm was 2 damage if it was a Bolt character when you fielded it, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the Human Torch where you just, like, it just felt, especially in those early days, it was literally like they'd get Human Torch out and then somehow they roll 20 sidekicks. That every turn they just like, here's a sidekick to field, here's a sidekick to field, here's a sidekick. And it's like, you just got lucky rolling those characters.
Yeah.
It's so frustrating.
In those days though, when you could obviously use Professor X to ramp to ridiculous margins, and then people could basically put characters in the field and then use Parallax to roll them out, and then use Parallax again to try to roll them back in, so they could then field them and do loads more damage. It was just, and that was just so boring because you're just watching your opponent rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling, and it's just nothing you can do. It's
Bolts are very like that though, aren't they? Like there is that, talking about Manticore, there is that team that Shadow Meld came up with, which uses the Pyro Global, which is another Bolt Global, which basically you can pay a Bolt to roll some dice out of your bag, and if you roll double bolts, you get to keep those. And then Manticore says if you roll a double bolt, you do a damage to your opponent. So on your opponent's turn, because of the way the dice rotation works, you have no transition zone, so everything's in the use pile and goes into your bag all the time. You can basically roll infinitely by using that until you manage to roll 20 double bolts.
Oh dear.
And it's like you literally will get to a certain stage in the game, you'll pass priority on your turn just before your attack step where you have like 50 damage waiting to go through. You're like, just give me like 20 minutes while I roll dice and just we'll kill you eventually. It's like, but I can win. Just give me priority back, you jerk.
Oh dear.
I thought Firefly was pretty tedious in Batman drafts. Yeah. In a similar sort of way. Oh, just stop fielding Firefly. Not to say that I haven't done that in a draft, but yeah, I apologise.
This is the one that says when fielded, deal 1 damage to your opponent for each Bolt character die you control.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Including the Firefly you just fielded.
Yeah, that isn't even the worst defender of those when fielded though. The Super Rare Boom Boom was really good as well, although you couldn't get those often in draft.
And but this was a common, wasn't it? The Firefly was a common.
Yeah, and it had the Huntress to help it along. That would deal damage equal to her attack when you fielded her. So then you could use her to KO.
That is kind of the thing about bolts, though, isn't it? It's kind of that relentless kind of always doing damage, no matter what you do. When you field something, when you attack with something, you do damage. When you roll a dice, you do damage. When you do anything, when you look at your opponent, you do damage.
It's officially the most irritating energy type.
If you fart, do 1 damage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's the most disrupting energy type for sure.
Yeah, no, that's certainly true. And I don't think anybody's mentioned Gobby, have they yet? Probably
no, just with the Firefly Boom Boom.
Passing.
Passing, yeah. But he was great. Have we, if those sort of cards typify a good bolt, what is an example of something that is an opposite of a bolt in a way, something that is an anti-bolt, but yet has a bolt designation? Which cards kind of buck the trend in terms of bolt characters?
Well, there are 2 that come to mind. There's Martian Manhunter, Green Martian, and Brett the Hitman Hart, the best there is. Both of those cards have Overcrush, and unconditional overcrush, and they are the only. Well, there's one of the dragons also has overcrush, but he also has breath weapon, which is pretty bolty.
Yeah.
But these only have overcrush, and overcrush is super rare on bolt cards. There's only like 6 or so that have overcrush actually.
Yeah.
And most of them will have some requirement that they will have to meet first before they even get overcrush.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, even that there was a Merlin. Wasn't there a crossover Merlin or something that had an overcrush? But he was
no, it was unblockable.
Unblockable.
Oh, unblockable. Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
There's a few in that set that are unblockable. The Weather Wizard as well had an unblockable. If they had a crossover, which I quite liked in draft. But that rare Merlin was very good.
Yeah.
All the archers are kind of bolty in general. Having a Winfield to deal damage with the Hawkeye or the Huntress.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, there's Rocket Raccoon in that bunch as well, although he's not an archer as such.
Yeah.
And that fits into I mentioned those with high attack and low defense. They're all a bit like that. Rocket Raccoon especially, plus Punisher, McRook, and all of the Bullseyes really, and Black Tom Cassidy as well. They're all nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, Black Tom actually is a good example because it has both fast and call out, doesn't it? And that fast is very bolty. So fast is you deal your attack damage to your opponent. I need to stop saying bolty because I keep thinking of like chicken bolty
now.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. But fast says you deal your attack damage before your opponent does. So you can, even if you have a low defense, it doesn't matter because you kind of kill your opponent before they can hit you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's pretty cool. And we had a bit of a discussion beforehand about whether Infiltrate should be considered to be anti-bolty or not. Ben, what's your view on that?
I don't know.
What?
End of segment. No, it's very strange. Well, it is because it does ping damage. It does direct damage as a function of, but it's so sneaky. It's kind of like masks in my mind. And I think a lot of those characters, especially in the bolts, toe that line between like masky. I think that's kind of with my thing with like Ultraman. Ultraman maybe should be a mask character to me.
No.
Because he's doing like tech stuff. That's what I feel about that, using the actions. And Infiltrate is kind of like that as well. It's a bit different to my mind from like the Cheetah, which when you attack deals 1 damage, or the Jubilee where it attacks and deals damage equal to the number of bolts you have. In that it's not the damage dealt during the attack step, it's during this funky like weird step that nothing else happens during, and isn't really a step.
Tag out happens.
It's like this strange like. But to me, that's kind of like a weird manipulation thing that seems very like mask archetype to me. No, I was going to say it's a bit like the Blink. Like it kind of works to me like a Blink or Distraction Global, the Infiltrate ability, which makes me think.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I think so. And I don't know the lore behind this, but somebody I was just looking through the list who feels like a mass to me is the Drow, the unblockable Drow. Is it the Mercenary? Yeah.
The Obscure. Yeah. Yeah.
But then Obscure, I suppose, is linked to Action Dice again.
Actions.
So yeah. But just on the Infiltrate thing, have we found the one subject in the world that Ben doesn't have a black or white opinion on? Is this the first thing that he's not sure about? Peter, do you think that Infiltrate should be treated as a bolt?
I do.
Attribute. Why?
Because it's a form of direct damage. I mean, there's some tricksiness to it, but there's more Infiltrate on bolts than there is on masks.
There is.
It sort of feels a bit like, to me, as if it's someone running up to someone's sort of front gate, chucking a brick at them, and then running away. That sort of.
But it doesn't seem that aggressive to me. That's the thing. I think it's not like a brick. It's like a
or a stone.
Like a weird or like I don't know.
Pea shooter.
Yeah, that's right.
They're like hiding in a tree with a pea shooter or something. It's just like that's not what bolts are for me. You're not laying like you're not creating desolations or like It's sort of just like, I don't know, flicking an acorn at them. It's like...
All right, well...
Death by 1,000 cuts.
It's just, I don't know. So infiltrate's a really good keyword. And I really like it. It just feels very masky. It's a bit like, I don't know if you want to move on, but a bit like the blankers, which I was interested in what you guys thought about that. Because to me, blanking someone... So the 3 big blankers we've had in the game are Shriek, Dwarf Wizard, and Typhoid Mary, all of which have the Bolt energy, although Typhoid is Bolt Mask, which I think fits a lot better. But none of those abilities feel particularly Bolt-like.
No, I agree with that.
It feels very masky.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I do associate blanket. I mean, how many masky blanky things are there?
Yeah, I don't know. None. Yeah.
I think your association must be wrong. I mean, it's not.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
I think it's probably because we associate masks with control, don't we? I think generally, don't we?
Yes, that's fair. Yeah.
And sort of manipulation and that kind of thing. So that's probably why we think it's more of a masky attribute.
Think back to Bolty Loki, ping and blank.
Yeah.
I think that's another characteristic of bolts is the blanking thing, which logically you might associate with masks, but in fact, I don't know. For me, it feels right. Ping, gone.
But they're not gone. That's the thing. Like, so I think we're going to talk about this with one of my kind of top 5 Bolt characters. But
Kryptonite, another blanker, and Cold Gun. Sorry, also a Bolt.
Yeah. Intimidate feels much more like a Bolt piece of control because it's very temporary. It's sort of like a lightning bolt has hit the ground. That character's been thrown aside for a minute.
Yeah.
No, to me that seems very sort of bullish and fisty. It's like, get out of the way. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
If we're characterising these things.
Because they're not gone, that's the thing. I think they're just kind of under control, aren't they? They're kind of...
They're cowering. They're cowering.
Because I think Kryptonite fits very well because it's very temporary.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Scarlet Witch, the Shriek and the Typhoid Mary and Dwarf Wizard are a lot more long-lasting.
Yeah, I don't have this temporary feeling. I think like if you're imagine your sort of VHS cassette gets zapped by electricity, magnetism, something like that.
Your VHS cassette. Do you want to explain what a VHS cassette is for anybody below the age of about 40?
No, not really. Magnetic tape-based recording.
I'm going to say that every time I blank someone now. I'm going to, excuse me, do you mind if I demagnetize your Hulk over there?
For anybody who's not familiar with the kryptonite that James is referring to, it's the kryptonite Green Death, common from World's Finest, that says a 2-cost action die that is obviously a bolt that says ignore the text on target character die's card. But obviously it only counts until the end of the turn.
Brilliant card, if you have it back.
Yeah. I also like that. Yeah, it's nicely limited.
Yeah, just to the end of the turn.
Isn't.
Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah, that was good. Should we talk a bit about Bolt Globals, shall we?
If you say so, yes.
Yeah, when I finally can say the sentence. If you
put it like that, then...
What choice do we have?
What are some typical kind of Bolt global attributes?
Get cheap action dice.
Well, cheap everything though, right? It's not just, although there is a tendency towards reduction of actions. There's also the blue-eyed white dragon.
Yeah.
Yes, which says
knock out target character, or the target character probably, because old wording. Knock out character, the next character you buy is 2 less, effectively.
Yeah.
And payable.
Yeah.
Yeah, payable. Yeah.
And then there's like the Thor global, isn't there? That means you can pay a bolt and buy an action die for 2 less.
Which is the 1,000 dragon.
Yeah. Of course.
And then you've got Malekith, which is a cross between the two, isn't it? It's like, do you have to knock out? Is it knock out? But you reduce an action die.
Yeah, by 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously the best version of all of those, arguably, actually probably the Blue Eyes is the best, but the Red Dragon, the one where you reduce by 2 and then also deal 1 damage, because you're a bold character.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, just one little Flick round the ear.
Which, if you use Cosmic Cube, is now 3 damage.
Oh, don't.
The worst. Okay.
No, hang on. Wait, that's a global. That's a global.
It doesn't work. Yeah. Okay. There was some way of pumping it though to do more damage.
Yeah.
That's the Human Torch global, I think.
The Human Torch global. Maybe that was it. Turk Barrett would deal 1 damage to a character. I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, no, because you have to pay a mask for the global for Turk Barrett.
Oh, it's a mask global. Yeah. That's weird, isn't it?
Turk is a bit weird. Bolty, isn't he? Is he a mask? I assume he's a mask.
No, it's a Bolt.
He's a Bolt character, but
he
triggers on masks.
He is, yeah.
He triggers off with masks. That's weird.
There's a fine line between the two.
Yeah, they're closely. There's some synergy.
Much more so than they are in Magic the Gathering.
Yeah. And there's also some pingy globals, Peter. Obviously, what kind of things have we got there?
Yeah, that's the classic magic missile.
Oh yes. Well, it's not a bolt though, is it?
Yes, it is.
It's a bolt global. Yeah, and we'll come back. We'll come back to. We'll
all right.
Come back to
and there's also there's one on a dragon that does the same thing, right?
Just the sidekicks.
Oh,
right?
Slifer.
Yeah, Slifer.
Pay a bolt, do a ping.
Exactly.
And then you've got the sidekick killing ones on Hawkeye and Carrion Crawler and someone else.
Yeah.
Spectre.
There you go.
Oof. Good shout, yeah.
Yeah. I've got a good global.
What is it, James?
It's on Superwoman, Lois Lane. Pay 1 generic. You may convert any amount of your energy to bolts this turn.
Mm-hmm. Ah.
Oh, yeah. And the Iceman global. And what's his face?
Yeah. Techno. Yeah. Pay a bolt and convert sidekicks to bolts.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose that is the thing, isn't it? It's like in my head,
energy. It's electricity. It's energy. It's light.
Yeah.
It's that, I reckon.
But in my head, whenever I think about Magic the Gathering playing red, is that you're kind of in the mountains. The mountain is spewing volcanic ash, so you're like doing pingy stuff to the village until like your big dragon awakens and comes out of the mountain and like burns it to the ground, basically. So the kind of you're waiting, you're storing up all these like sidekicks, and then you suddenly turn them all to bolts, and then you do some nonsense where you win the game.
I found an unbolty one which I couldn't find before. I think Thor, when bolt, sure. But that super rare unworthy one, and there's another one in the similar vein. While Thor is active, you may sacrifice him. If you do, prevent all damage dealt to your character dice. What's bolty about that?
That's apart from the mighty Thor.
Yeah. That's extremely unbolty. That's a good shout. There is one other type of global, isn't there, that we haven't mentioned, Ben, in terms of one that appears quite prevalently with bolts.
Yeah, and funnily enough, is one that masks also have quite commonly.
Yeah.
It's the Force Attack global.
Yes.
First seen on the Phoenix in AVX, but also most recently on Scott Hall.
Yeah.
Which doesn't get enough credit, probably is a really good card to play in general. But Force Attack, very, very kind of reckless, deal damage whichever way you can, even if that involves forcing your opponent's field to attack so you can attack next turn. That kind of reckless abandon that bolts have. Yeah, that's good. So there's certainly some themes coming out in terms of those bolt. Links well with Jocasta. Jocasta, the one. Jocasta.
I'll tell you what links well with Jocasta. Oh, come on.
Mjolnir.
Boltiest action die of all is Mjolnir, surely.
Mjolnir is hilarious.
Which does a ton of damage to hang on, there's a couple of them, but the Fist of the Righteous. Deal 6 damage to each villain, or on a double burst, deal 8 damage to each villain, which you just reflect from your own Jocasta to your opponent. And it's got a global, pay 2 bolts to deal 1 damage to a target character.
Yeah. Oh, drat, that's just ruined one of my quiz questions. Never mind.
I'll take the point for that.
Yeah. Oh well, that's one for your question. Okay. Were there any other particularly sort of notable Bolt characters that we wanted to mention, or any other stuff?
We've not mentioned Iceman.
How could we not mention Nova. Iceman, Peter?
Slash Nova.
Why don't you mention him now?
Yes, so that's the original gangster was Nova, of course, when it's dealt damage during your attack step, it deals 2 damage to your opponent.
Yeah,
which pairs very well with the Pingy Globals, of course.
Yeah, very much so. And then Iceman continued that fine tradition, didn't he?
Yeah,
albeit and made it even more strong.
Yeah, albeit on a cheaper character.
And with a better average defense as well.
Yeah. So you've obviously enjoyed a bit of Iceman action over the years, haven't you, Peter?
I have, certainly, yes.
We've also, can I mention range quickly?
Please do. Yeah.
So one of my picks for kind of, I don't know if it'll make my Boltiest Bolt, but the Storm Boys, which had Intimidate, which I think is a very Bolt-like ability, but also has the range global, which you can give range to one character.
Oh yeah.
And range is basically when you attack, you can ping one of your opponent's things.
Yes.
So I think that's very, very on brand. Although the most famous range character, Venom Dreadnought, is a shield, which
that's right.
Ruins that, but no.
Yeah. No, but that Storm Boys one is cool, and the fact that you can give it to any character. I mean, if you obviously you wouldn't be able to do this in Modern, but if you're able to do this in Golden and pair it with like that Superwoman that James just mentioned, where you could have an enormous supply of bolts.
So you have lots of things range one,
yeah, which would be pretty handy.
You could do that, or you could just buy Dreadnought. Yeah,
well, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
where's the fun in that?
Yeah, exactly.
And then, should I mention my last kind of one I want to talk about in terms of my top 5 is Lantern Ring, which we mentioned.
Right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Which gives the kind of attack deal damage, but it times that by like 10 billion terribleness. So basically, Lantern Ring does a damage. So if you attack with a mask character, it will deal 1 damage for every mask energy face you have in your reserve.
Yeah.
Or if you attack with a bolt character, every bolt energy will deal 1 damage.
Yeah.
And so on. And it was most commonly used with bolts and masks and was terrifying and awful.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was interesting actually because it had a period, didn't it, when it was really strong. But I don't recall it winning many of the big tournaments. Like, there was one year when it was huge, wasn't it? I think, and loads of people played it. But I think Ultraman.
I don't want to digress too much, but yes, that year that someone else won the UK Nats. That wasn't me. Although unofficially, because on the official website it does say that I won that year. So I built a really random team. It used like Umber Hulk and Nightwing and all this like random stuff. The only reason I used that team was to stop Gareth's team, and he had a really good mask ring team, which could have been on like turn 4 or something. And that team was really, really strong. But in the semi-final, he lost to Andy
England.
Andy England, who played an Ultraman team.
Yeah.
So I had to play him in the final, and he like wiped the floor with me with this really horrible Ultraman team. But that was the year Lantern Ring. I think it was 2016.
Yeah, it was. That was 2016.
Lantern Ring was really good, but didn't quite do what it could have done. I think maybe.
No, it's interesting because it paired nicely with. I mean, I think Gareth had it nicely paired with awful, annoying mask things like Elf Thief and and
Jar,
Oracle. All these kind of horrors that we've spoken about before. It was not fun to play against.
I imagine that team now with like Clayface and stuff. That would be
yikes.
Oh, no, thank you. I've got a couple of shout outs if we can move on from horror.
Yes, please.
There's a couple which are maybe not that bolty, but I think, worth a shout out. I don't know how bolty Chwinga is, but it's definitely a very it was the first. Was it the first? No, it was the second, because
one cost bolt.
It was the first one cost bolt, and the second swarm bolt, maybe.
Yeah.
Which are not necessarily bolt characteristics, but it was very much used as a source of bolts. So I thought that was worth a mention. And maybe the first swarming, was it the first? Oh no, not this particular variant, but the foot ninja was a bolt as well.
Yeah.
And again, not hugely bolty. It's got the sort of ally, +1/+1 for each other psychic die in the field. But a notable bolt, but not maybe a bolty bolt. But the third one is definitely very bolty, and it's basically all of the Jubilees. They're all bloody bolty, aren't they?
Yeah.
For example, Jubilation Lee, when Jubilee attacks, she deals 1 damage to your opponent for each other attacking bolt character die. And then Maulrat, which is, while she's active, when you field a psychic die, it's the Johnny Storm, deal 1 damage. And that's only a 2 cost,
Yeah, they're all really good. Jubilees, I don't know if Jubilees had a bad card.
I think she might be the boltiest character, if not the boltiest card. Like, she's consistently enormously bolty.
Yes.
And good and strong, basically, in all her iterations.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just having a look at there are basically 6 versions of Jubilee that have been produced, and they are all definitely usable. I mean, you've got the Jubilation Lee that does 1 damage for every other attacking bolt character, Wondra, who does 2 damage when she's fielded, Olympic Gymnast, who says when she's active, when you field a bolt character die, deal 1 damage to target opponent. There's a couple of Awaken ones, Jubilee Life on the Street, that when you awaken, she does 1 damage to all opposing character dice. A real Firecracker, when an opposing character die is KO'd, spin this character up 1 level, but then she also has Awaken, deals 1 damage to target opponents. Obviously, that triggers off that. And then Maulrat that James just mentioned. So she's all round a top egg in terms of.
I mean, I definitely think Bolt team is probably the easiest to put together and be pretty competitive. If you just came into the game and someone asked me what energy type would you recommend I start collecting religiously, if we were going to do the magic thing where you collect the color type, bolts is definitely the one that I'd recommend to newer players.
Yeah, it's definitely
just because you get competitive with it real quick.
Certainly can. Well, should we do our nominations for Boltiest Bolt? Should we? Yes. Where do we? Peter, what's going to be your?
Do we have to choose one?
Yeah, you got to choose one. You got to choose one. One each. Yeah, you got to choose one each. So, Peter, what are you picking as your Boltiest Bolt?
I guess I will have to go with Nova.
Why?
Because it's like the one of the best direct damage sources in the game.
Yep. All right.
That's and sweet. Fair enough.
That's short and sweet. Yeah, Ben, what are you picking?
But he has such high attack. Okay, I'm not going to say that because mine also has good attack stats and defense stats. I'm going with the super rare red dragon. The super rare? No, wait.
Yeah, super rare.
Yeah, I know. I want to choose one of the other ones.
No, super rare doubles actions. It's good.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, super rare red dragon, epic dragon. It's 7 cost bolt and it has breath weapon 3, which we didn't really mention, but I think is a pretty bolty sort of win condition. While active, once per turn when you use an action die effect, you may use a second copy of its effect, so it has the action thing that everyone else thinks is very bolt-like. And has a global that we talked about where you pay a bolt and you can purchase next action for 2 less and you deal 1 damage. And it's a big red dragon from the mountains.
Yeah. Yeah, he's got a bit too much of a big butt for my liking, though, for a bolt character.
Yeah, but he's the one who takes a while to get out. But then when you do, the mountain is erupting and the desolation is there.
Fair point. Yeah, he has got a nice lot of bolt characteristics. James, what are you picking?
I'm picking the winner. I've already mentioned one iteration of Blue Dragon, but come on. Blue Dragon, Lesser Dragon, has Breath Weapon 1. Okay, Breath Weapon. And also has the ability, while active, whenever you use an action die's ability, action die, deal 1 damage to all characters, ping, 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 ping. And he has fricking lightning bolts coming out of his mouth.
Yeah, I really like that blue dragon.
I thought you were going to pick Boom Boom. Have you changed your mind in the last?
I've changed my mind. She's a bit cheesy for me, but Boom Boom and Jubilee also for sure. But Blue Dragon's cooler.
All right, so we've got Nova, Red Dragon, Blue Dragon, and I think I'm going to pick, maybe slightly controversially, I'm going to pick Magic Missile as my Boltiest Bolt, which I know it's a basic action. It's not a Bolt card.
Why not go Slifer?
Why not go Slifer?
Well, I could, but it feels like Magic Missile is more...
Cares, right? You're such a meta...
Exactly. Who has played Slifer, really? I mean, not very many people.
I have.
But
I have.
Yeah, all right.
I won the European Championship with him.
Okay, we all
don't have
have
space for Magic Missile.
But Magic Missile is just the kind of boltiest of cards as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's not obviously that it has the global that says pay a bolt and deal 1 damage to target character die, and you can obviously do it as many times as you have bolts that you can afford.
This is actually the European Championship, but never mind.
All right,
I have used it.
But then also the action itself has deal 2 damage to target character die or to character or player, and then with the burst side, you can do extra damage to a character equal to the level of your highest level adventurer in the field. So it's like just direct damage coming out of his ears.
Or highest level turtle character.
Oh, if
Thank you
you've
very
got
much.
yeah. Of course.
That's unstable canister.
Unstable canister.
Yeah, an unstable canister, yeah. But I'm going Magic Missile, and that's going to be my pick. So we have made our selections for Boltiest Bolt, and we want you to get involved with this. We're going to be putting up a poll on the Dice Masters Unlimited Facebook page, so do get involved with the action. You can put forward your suggestion if you think that something else should be there, if you think that it should be Gobby, if you think it should be Thor, if you think it should be Cosmic Cube, exactly.
I'm totally slipping Mjolnir in there. No doubt.
Oh yeah, it was you, Spug. You won the European Championship with Slifer.
Okay.
I get that. I get that sometimes. I think I've won things and it turns out it was something else completely.
Wait, what? You mean that was my Fix-It team had Slifer?
Yeah.
Oh,
indeed.
okay. I'd forgotten that. That was me thinking I had. Well, it must have been for fear of Ultraman. I must have had End of Days and I don't know, something else.
Yeah.
Anyway, you've completely ruined my flow now. I was just in the middle of inviting everybody to get involved with the debate. So do vote on the Facebook page, because we will be announcing in the next episode the winner of the Boltiest Bolt, and we want you to help us decide. So please go on to the DM Unlimited Facebook page, and you can cast your vote, or you can even put forward your suggestion, and we'll announce in the next edition which is the winner. Right, well, with that, let's move on to our next segment. All right, well, we've had a lot of Bolt chat there, and now it's time for me to put these guys' knowledge of Bolt cards to the test with a bit of a Bolt quiz. So have you got your pens and papers ready, gentlemen?
Pens? I'm going to jot it on my phone. Is that going to work?
That's fine. Yeah, you
I
can
have an envelope. Yes,
that's equally
That's paper.
That's equally valid. Yeah, that all counts. And I've had to delete one of my questions because the question was Magic Missile has the infamous pay bolt, deal 1 damage to target character global. Well, which card has the global pay 2 bolts to deal 1 damage to target character? And we've all known that James has already spoiled that one, so I won't ask that. But if you're ready, let's start with the first question, which is, according to the Dice Coalition Team Builder, how many Bolt cards are there?
Jesus.
Is it 762? Is it 862? Or is it 962? Out of all the cards on the Dice Coalition Team Builder, all the cards in Dice Masters, how many Bolt cards are there? 762, 862. Nice.
Okay, I might recuse myself from this question because I looked earlier.
Well, that's very honest of you. But that, I
prior knowledge, I suppose.
If yeah, exactly. You, in that way, you could disqualify yourself for answering any question that you know the answer to.
I suppose.
I know this. I should.
Like before an exam where you're studying just outside the exam hall and you read the one thing, which never works, but in this case has.
I was tempted actually I was tempted not to tell you lot that I had done a quiz in advance just so that you wouldn't do any of this swatting up. But never mind. Anyway, what's the answer?
Just because I was going through all the bolts to do our list for us.
All right, Ben, what's the answer?
862.
Is correct.
Sweet.
Nice.
Oh, you all went for the middle one. Excellent.
I was going to do a surprise bird quiz, but
oh no! Don't mention the birds.
Hawkman was a good bolt, wasn't he?
That's true, actually. Yeah, and we didn't mention Hawkeye that much. Anyway, which is the highest cost Bolt character, and how much does it cost?
Oh my god!
There's one that stands above them all, but what is it, and how much is it to buy?
Do I know its ability though?
Oh well, if you know the answer at all, then that's pretty good. Peter James, how you doing?
I've got an answer. I don't know.
You got an answer.
Maybe it's right.
Maybe it's not right.
All right. Who wants to give me an answer?
Is it Winged Dragon of Ra?
Yeah, that's what I have.
No. It's not.
Oh, I just want to know what it is.
I have no clue.
Is it the one from the Stomp? Is it Stomper? Is he a bolt?
Yeah, I was thinking that as my second choice.
It's not them. The answer is Phoenix Force. Force of Nature.
Oh, yeah, 10 cost.
The 10 cost AVX OP card, yeah. While Phoenix Force is active, each of your opponent's characters deals no more than 1 damage to you while attacking. So that, I know, that is the most expensive. And actually, we've already answered a potential follow-up question, which is the lowest cost. Chewinga, indeed, with 1. Okay, which 2 characters have appeared the highest number of times as Bolt characters in different sets?
Blimey.
There are 2 characters that have appeared more than any others, appeared in more sets as Bolt characters than any others. Who do you think those 2 characters might be? There's a lot out there.
Okay.
You can probably, by a process of elimination, work out.
The issue is some of the ones that
it might be from
are also other energy types, aren't they?
Yeah, Okay, I've got.
Because I don't know. Can you tell us how many iterations they've had?
Well, if I told you, I'd have to kill you.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't, because it's quite difficult over the internet to do that. But it's 5. It's 5.
They've been in 5 different sets.
5 different sets. Yeah.
As a
I'll try
character.
one. I've maybe got one.
Go on then, James. What have you got?
Is Thor one of them?
Correct.
Yeah.
Thor is one of them. He's been in AVX, Civil War, Avengers Infinity, Infinity Gauntlet, and of course the eponymous Thor set. But there's one other character that has appeared in 5 different sets as a Bolt character. Who might that be? Anybody know?
I mean, I have a few down here, but I don't know if they've ever been in... Because Loki's been in a bunch of sets, but he's also a mask sometimes.
And Scarlet Witch as well.
Yeah, and then I have Hawkeye and Iceman written down.
He's often a shield, so...
Yeah. Well, the answer... Should I tell the answer? It is...
Where's it from? DC?
It's Marvel. It's Marvel. I think the DC just haven't had enough sets, probably.
Yeah.
Any clues? No.
Go on, give us a clue. Affiliation.
Well, if I tell you the affiliation, it'll give it away straight away. He has a Guardians affiliation.
Rocket.
Rocket.
Rocket Raccoon is correct. Yeah,
5 sets. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been in Age of Ultron, Civil War, Guardians of the Galaxy, Kree Invasion, and Infinity Gauntlet. Wow. And there were 4 characters that have appeared as Bolt characters in 4 different sets. Any ideas
Hawkeye
who those are? This is just like a little bonus. No, Hawkeye isn't.
Hawkeye's only been in
3. No, I can think of 3.
Yeah,
definitely. Although
you've mentioned 1 or 2 of them already. There's a little bonus.
Iceman was the other one.
Iceman is correct. Yeah, Scarlet Witch is one. Yeah.
Storm?
Storm, no.
No, because of the mask in AVX.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she's a mask.
And
I'll just tell us.
Deadpool.
The other ones are Loki, which obviously you mentioned, and Cyclops.
Who
is consistently a Bolt, and he was in AVX, Uncanny X-Men, X-Men First Class, and X-Men Forever.
Very good.
All right. Our old friend Ghost Rider Johnny Blaze from the original AVX set featured the infamous text, "No special effects, just a low-cost die with good numbers." But what were those numbers, and what was his purchase cost? So what are the numbers on that Ghost Rider die? What was his fielding cost, and then his attack and defense stats on each level? Have you got any ideas?
Do we get a point for each number? Do we have to do all of them? Oh my god.
Well, no. I mean, basically, you'll
just do the top level, surely.
You'll get a point for the purchase cost. You get a point for the purchase cost, and then you get a point for each level that you get fully correct. It's harsh. Anybody know?
I think I know the top level for sure.
Yeah?
The 355.
Correct. What's his purchase cost?
He's a 2 cost.
2 cost, yeah, very good.
I think he's a 123.
Yeah?
233.
Oh, you're so close. 234. 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, and 3, 5, 5. That's very close. Very close. And so you could get 4 points there if you got all those right. Ben, you obviously got 3.
Okay, I got 3. All right.
With that.
What great numbers though.
3, 5, 5.
At 2 cost.
Amazing. Yeah.
The fielding kills it.
Oh,
totally. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, if it was a 1 cost fielding across the board, it would be amazing. But anyway, go on, James.
How many questions have we got? Just so I know, so that listeners at home know what to expect.
I have 3 more.
All right.
Yeah, there are 3 different characters in the Warhammer set that have the keyword frag. But what does frag mean?
I'll just go home.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you're going to ask us to name the characters.
No. What does frag mean?
I have a gist of it, but
yeah, I don't know if the exact wording.
Yeah, just read it out, Spug. It's not like anyone's going to actually write it down.
You don't have to get it exactly right, but yeah, Peter, what do you think it is?
If it KOs something with combat damage, you get to deal some damage to another
1
character.
damage across the board.
2 characters which didn't block or something.
Correct. That is. Yeah, between you got it right. So when a character die with frag attacks and KOs, 1 or more blocking character dice with combat damage deal 1 damage to all opposing character dice that did not block this turn.
Yeah.
So if you've got that or something close to it,
close enough.
And I've got 2. I think I have 2 of the characters as well.
Oh, that would be good because I haven't actually. I haven't actually got that, but who are they?
Battle Wagon, I know, and Malignant Plaguecaster, I know, but I don't know who the other one. I assume it's one of the good guys, the blue ones.
You're right. Yes, it is.
Well, no,
you got those other 2 right. It's Primaris Repulsor.
They're all Primaris, something like that.
Yeah. All right. Which Bolt character appears last when they are listed alphabetically?
Should I recuse myself of this as well?
You looked at that. No, it's fine.
Well, I went through the whole list of all the Bolt characters, didn't I?
You wouldn't necessarily remember what's at the end.
An idea.
Yeah, I did. What do you think it is?
Peter, what do you think the answer is?
Is it Yondu?
Yondu? No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not Yondu. James, do you know?
I reckon it should be General Zod. But I know that he's a G, but it should be Zod anyway.
Zod, General.
Exactly.
Or Baron Zemo.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah,
Ooh,
Ben, do you know the answer?
It's UNT.
UNT Pure Blood, of course. Yes, it is.
And Yondu was close.
Yeah.
All right, final question. Which keyword appears on more Bolt cards than any other? And you might be surprised.
Other keyword?
Like if you...
Energy type, or...
No, I mean, so...
Totally unclear.
Which keyword appears on more Bolt cards than anything else? Like, than any other card.
So you're
I
saying...
can't explain it.
So Frag would have appeared on 3 Bolt characters.
Exactly. Yeah. Or it's on 4 cards. So Frag is on 4 Bolt cards, so that would be 4.
Okay.
For example, Intimidate appears on 6.
Really?
Bolt
that
cards.
low?
Yeah, only 6. But there's one, which is the highest.
I mean, it must be.
So which keyword has appeared on the greatest number of Bolt cards? Is that what you're saying?
I think that's probably correct, yeah.
No, I've still no idea, but at least I have a clear on the question.
Peter, what's the answer?
I don't know.
Are you going to guess? No. James, have you got a guess?
I'll just go with Infiltrate. There must be a few of them.
There are 12 Infiltrates.
That's what I went with.
Are there 12?
There are, surprisingly, there are 12 that have Infiltrate. There are 14 that have Breath Weapon.
Bloody Breath Weapon. That's not a keyword.
There are 15. There are 15 that have Fast. 15.
Okay.
15 that have Fast. Now there are 19 that have a tune. I thought you would all pick a tune.
That was going to be my guess, but then I thought it was too obvious.
But the answer is Experience, which is on 30 characters. 30
times.
Makes
sense,
Good lord.
It appears 30 times.
I would never have guessed that one.
No.
Experience doesn't count, though, does it? Really?
It's a keyword.
Experience is everything. When you get to my age, Ben, experience is everything. All right, so add up your scores. I don't actually know how many it's out of because I was a bit disorganised. But we can see who's got the highest. Peter, how many?
About 5.
Peter, 5.
What the questions were?
James,
probably 2, I think.
Fewer than 5. Okay, Ben.
6. 1, 2,
Ooh.
3, 5, 6. I think he's out of 11 as well.
Snatched it. He snatched it. Well done, Ben. 6 out of however many it was out of. I don't actually know how many it was out of. I think it would be 1.
11, I think.
10, 11. Yes, it is 11. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did have 2 of those. Like, I did them in my research.
So that made the difference.
I'd like to lodge an official complaint.
Yeah, I mean, I think Peter can take that if he wants.
You have to take it out with the commissioners.
Pretty sure the viewers at home or listeners at home will beat that.
Yeah, well, how many did you get? Did you beat Ben's score? If you did, let us know. You can get in touch with us using the contact details at the end of the show. Otherwise, we will move on to the last segment. Okay, well, we've just got a bit of AOB and other bits and bobs to round up. And I think the first thing to mention is there's some online tournaments going on. There's some action kicking off. It's been pretty quiet, hasn't it, for quite a while on the online tournament after a bit of a flurry last year, particularly when things got going once everybody was well and truly in lockdown. But there are some more coming up. And the first one for your diary, which we mentioned last time, is 23rd of October, which hopefully you will have listened to the episode by the time before the 23rd of October. But if you haven't, then you might have missed it. But it's basically this coming Saturday. The good people at DM North are running Roll for the North, and it starts at, I think it's 5 p.m. UK time, 12 p.m. Eastern time, and then whatever that means, wherever you are. Peter, you can tell us what the format is, because it escapes me. It's double, single,
it's
triple,
double single affiliation.
It's a double single affiliation. So you have to have half of your team from one affiliation and half of your team from another.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can find out all the details on the DM North website. And in fact, if you want to get an inside track into some of the good picks for that particular tournament, then you can always listen to our last episode where we had an in-depth kind of consideration of some of those different affiliations. Also, the Ministry of Dice have announced that they will be doing the Gaming versus Cancer event, which raises funds for the charity Cancer Research UK, online again this year. So that's typically been Gaming versus Cancer has been an in-person event that's been taking place in Southampton, the south of England, for a number of years. It's kind of a festival of various different types of online tabletop gaming, but last year it was obviously had to be moved online because of the pandemic, and this year it's not happening again in person, but Chris and Andy are going to be doing an online version instead. They did one last year and it was very well attended, and I think they raised a good amount of money for Cancer Research UK, and that event is going to be held on Saturday the 13th of November starting at 6 p.m. UK time. And this is a golden single set event. All the cards on your team must be from the same Dice Masters set release. And there's a whole list of, I don't know, have you guys looked at the format of this very much yet?
We'll pop it in the show notes. We'll put a link in.
Yeah, it's very complicated.
It is.
All sorts of bonuses and deductions that you will get.
They just want to stifle my ramp.
Well, you could pick UXM, couldn't you? And then
yeah, I think there's some kind of they hate Professor X, so they're not allowed to play Professor X.
Oh, really? Oh,
no, you can.
You can, but you don't.
I think nothing's banned, is it?
Stuff, right?
I think the rest of the set is not great though. So
yeah, you could be.
PXG will be worth it.
Yeah, you can go heroic.
Heroic, yes.
Yeah, that'd be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, do it. You'll definitely get bonus points for building. I'm sure if you go heroic, that would be very good. So yeah, that's taking place on Saturday, 13th of November. I think they're going to charge about a tenner to £10, 10 of your pounds sterling to take part, to cover kind of pricing and that kind of stuff. It sounds like they've got some good stuff on offer. So as James said, we'll put a link in the show notes for anybody who wants to find out a bit more about that. Talking of online play, James, Dice Fight rolls on. What's coming up over the next couple of weeks?
On the 21st of October, we have two Halloween-related events since it's the month that it is. And on the 21st of October, we have Zombieland. The initial letters of the cards on your team must spell out ZOMBIELAND. And on the 28th of October, we have Jason's custom format Necro War. I wrote a blog about that. I'll put some links in the show notes.
Excellent. And that is 9 p.m. UK time, 10 p.m. Central European time, every Thursday evening. Do get involved if you've got a webcam and you fancy a bit of online play. All right, well, that is it from us for this particular edition. What did you make of the Boltiest Bolt discussion? Do get involved. Do please vote using the Facebook page and put forward your suggestions. Do let us know how you got on in the quiz. Did you beat Ben's Mighty Six? Or, well, maybe we should count it as a 4 if we count the answers that he already knew or cheated at. I don't know. Or maybe just a 0 if we just take off all the ones that he knew. Anyway, did you beat that 6? Do let us know. James, how do people contact us using the electronic mail format?
They should address their emails to hello@dmunited.eu.
Brilliant. Fantastic. Well, we hope you've enjoyed the episode. If you have, it would be great if you could leave us a nice review using your favourite podcast app. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can be first to hear when a new episode drops. Otherwise, we will see you again next time. Bye-bye.
The robin is perhaps the most charming of birds.
Bye.
Bye.